Budgeting is one of the foundational topics taught in every personal finance class. Hi, my name is Amanda Volz. I'm a personal finance teacher at St. Clair High School in St. Clair, Michigan, and I'm here to give some teacher tips on how to implement the activity, a salary-based budget. So one great activity to use in your budgeting unit is this activity right here, which is called Create a Salary-Based Budget. I found it to be most effective to use it at the end of my budgeting unit, or kind of, I guess, towards the end of my budgeting unit. After we talk a bit about budgeting, I then have them create their own budget by using this activity. So what it allows students to do is it allows them to choose a career that they're interested in and then create a monthly budget based off of that salary. So there's 3 documents or 3 pieces of information that students will need to complete this project. The first is what you're looking at on your screen, and it's a slideshow that has step-by-step directions. So this activity is really laid out well in the fact that as a teacher, I think you can just introduce it to your students and then they can work at their own pace because there are step-by-step directions listed here within this presentation. So one of the first things they'll do when they open up this presentation is they'll open up the budget that goes with it. So again, there's 3 different documents they'll need. They'll need this spreadsheet with the directions. They'll need the budget, a spreadsheet to create their budget within, and then the final is a document that houses the reflection questions. So on the first step of this, it tells students to open this budget worksheet and then make a copy of it so that way they can manipulate and edit it because it'll be view only for them when they first open it. I personally use Google Classroom. I'm a huge Google Classroom user. So what I do is I add a copy of this to my Google Classroom setup. So they have a copy of the view only budget, and then I make every student have their own copy of the budget. So if you use Google Classroom, you could add it that way so then they don't have to make the copy themselves. So what students do is they choose a salary or a career that they are interested in and then research the salary on PayScale. They then use a paycheck calculator to take that gross wage and figure out what their net pay would be every month. And then it allows them to make some choices about how much they can save, how much they can invest, how much they can afford in rent, what their other expenses would be as far as utilities, insurance, etc. And again, it takes them every step of the way. And while they're doing that, they'll input the information onto the budgeting worksheet or the budgeting spreadsheet. And the first column, column A, has it numbered with the step. So again, like I said, I feel that you can get students started and then let them work at their own pace because when they're on step 14, it correlates with 14 right here with the car payment rate on the budget. So a few tips, I guess, that I can give you. Actually, the first one is the slide I'm looking at. One of the things I do to change this activity a little bit, and that's why I love NGPF so much, is that their activities are so customizable. You could give them exactly this slide, and they could pick, oh, I would like a $10,000 car, so that would be $300 a month. What I do is I have students actually go find a car. So they go online, find a car that they can afford, and then they do the calculation of what that monthly payment would be. Because I teach my course as a 4th-year math credit, my students do the actual calculations. But you could link them to an online calculator so then they can find a car they like and then calculate what the monthly payment would be. One of the key things to draw your attention to and also to tell your students when you're introducing this is column F. Column F is the choice column. So this is where students are going to record a lot of their choices and information. So for example, I have them go find a car. I would have them record the link to that car right in the choice column. Or however much they're going to save or invest, they should be recording percentages there. I think it's important just to remind students that their details should be listed in that column F. That's something to tell them as they're going through. I do the same thing when we get to the student loan. So one option with the student loan is to take the loan debt that they have listed and then they have a monthly payment already calculated. But what I do is I have students estimate how much they think they'll have in student loans and then do the actual calculation on their monthly payment. So those are ways I just kind of adapt and change the activity. On step 30, or slide 31, it has the students come up with fun stuff or things that they think they'll spend their money on that are not listed in their budget already. And what I do is I give students a number. So I tell them you have to have 5 discretionary expenses. And I have them list them. So I add a couple rows under here in the budget or other wants that they have. Because what I've noticed is a lot of students will be so frugal with assignments like this, and they'll be, I won't spend any other money. So even if it's minimal, like they're just going to buy a coffee or a cup, something very small, they have to list, I give them a number 5. They have to do 5 discretionary expenses. So when students are all done and they've inputted all of their expenses and it nicely calculates a percentage of whatever their gross pay is, it's calculating some percentages for them. It's up to you how you teach budgeting, if you want them to have a zero-based budget or if they have a surplus of money, if that's okay when they're finished. What students do at the very end is they now open that third piece, which is the document and the reflection questions. So at the very end, I'm trying to get mine to click. There you go. Once they're done with their budget, they then open what are the reflection questions, which is another document. So again, the presentation gives the directions, the spreadsheet has the budget, and then they open the document for the reflection questions. My last teacher tip is what I do is instead of having that third document, I take these questions and I just add them to my spreadsheet. So you're looking at my example, and I'm going to move my screen down just a little bit. And I just add a tab here that says reflection questions, and I put the questions right in the spreadsheet. So then in my Google Classroom, I attach the directions or the slideshow, and then I attach the spreadsheet, and that's it. There's not multiple documents. But that's just, again, another tip that you could use. Otherwise, you can just have students write on or type in the document, which has them do some reflection questions. This is an amazing activity. It's really eye-opening for students to actually put together their own budget, particularly that they get to make their own choices and choose a career that they're actually interested in.